at what it is. I'm happier now that I'm doing my free stuff than when I was making 200 grand a year.
Welcome to the Career Flipper Podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Dempsey. Just a regular person trying to figure out my career path and, honestly, life in general. But let's be real, I am not some career flipping expert over here. Sure, I spent 18 years in customer experience and service at startup tech companies, and I thought that was my path. But then I got laid off. I stumbled into freelancing. I started flipping furniture. Go ahead and check out San Diego Furniture Flipper on Instagram and TikTok if you want to see what I'm still up to, and somehow ended up launching this podcast. So yeah, I get how overwhelming and honestly exhausting career changes can be because I've lived it too. And truthfully, I am still figuring it out as I go every single day. So that's why this podcast exists, because I just have so many questions. How do people actually pull off these big career changes without totally falling apart? How do they push through the self-doubt when nothing feels certain? And how do they juggle side gigs and full-time jobs without losing their minds? Instead of spiraling in my own head like I always do, I figured why not just start talking to people about it? So, every week I sit down with real people from all over the world working in all kinds of industries, and I chat with them about their career path. We get into the messy middle, the setbacks, the wins, the what the heck am I doing moments, so you and I can take that next step with a little more confidence and maybe a few extra tools in our back pockets. So if somebody sent you this episode, it's basically like a love letter. They believe so strongly in you, and they know that you have exactly what it takes to figure this out and to keep going, no matter what. So, give them a big hug, tell them thank you, and get whatever you can out of this episode. It's a gift. We can learn so much from one another. In today's episode, I sit down with my friend Alex Ferro of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Alex opens up about walking away from a steady but totally unfulfilling corporate banking job. He has no clear plan, but he took the leap anyway. And after leaving, Alex chased hailstorms, literally, and fixed cars that got dents from the hail. It's not exactly the dream job, but it paid the bills while he figured things out. Eventually, he found his way into real estate and started flipping houses. But it wasn't some overnight success story. He made a ton of mistakes and lost a lot of money at first. Alex calls those early failures his version of university. Messy, expensive, and full of lessons that eventually pay off. He also gets real about personal loss and how it forced him to rethink what success even means. Spoiler, it's not about the money. Alex's story is very relatable. Like that feeling when you've been doing something for so long and it just isn't working anymore. And taking the leap into the unknown actually costs less than staying. So take a deep breath. You're not alone and you don't have to figure it all out today. Let's get into the episode with Alex. All right, Alex, before we start anything, I want to do a quick shout out to the place that we lived in Philly, Summit Park, because Summit Park brings people together in a way that many apartment complexes do not. Am I right?
Absolutely. Summit Park. Oh, man, that was fun. Oh, good. Shout out to Summit Park, the clubhouse, the pool.
Mug night.
Mug night. It's still going, too. Mug night's still going. They haven't stopped.
Oh, my gosh.
Yep.
I still have my mug. I still have
really?
I do. It makes funny. A great water cup. Once you leave Summit Park, you drink water.
Yeah.
You grow up, you drink water. Yeah.
I know we get older, we drank a little too much at Summit, so we got to drink some water and hydrate.
Yeah.
It was a good time though. I will give them credit because I haven't found any complex like that has a bar and a social environment out of all the places, which we'll get into where I've moved. There's nothing been like that.
Yeah, true so, that. They did Summit that Park. Right. Very unique. Here's the Summit Park. Cheers to that.
Cheers with our water.
But I'm so glad. It's so good to see you. It has been so long, and hearing about, your the paths that you've taken out after, Summit Park and moving on and careers and all the things. And so I'm really excited to have you here with me. So thank you for being on. Tell everybody who you are, where you are, and what you're doing right now. And then we'll dive into all the flips and good stuff.
So I'm Alex Ferro. I live in North Carolina now, in Winston-Salem. I've kind of traveled around quite often for the past 6 or 7 years. Me and Jenny met in Philly, and I left Philly in 2017. Then I went to New Hampshire, Chicago, now North Carolina, and been all over the places. We'll go over that. But now, since then, I've been in real estate, and I buy and flip houses. I buy and flip contracts. So I help investors find properties. I help homeowners sell their properties. And I do that all throughout the country. I pretty much work off of my phone and my computer, and I'm able to just connect people. I connect everybody together, but I also buy and hold. I got a couple rentals myself, and that's what I'm doing now. I mean, mainly it's all real estate.
Literally flipping the houses. You're in the right place for talking about flipping. But what were you doing when you were in Philly? Like, kind of, where did your career path begin?
So I worked at a mortgage servicing company. I did mortgages. I was a mortgage loan originator. I worked in the banking industry when I was in Philly I lived in Philly for 8 years, but prior to that in Miami, I worked in the banking industry. So a total about 15 years, all from being the person at the bank where you go open a checking account to helping people out when they were in foreclosure or needed loan modifications. When we had the crash in 2008, the mortgage servicing company had a lot of files that were passed due on loans. And I got hired to help all these people come up to a resolution, whether if it was a modification, a short sale, or a deed in lieu, which is pretty much turning the title back to the bank. So that was my background. It was in the lending side of real estate when I was in Philly. Okay.
So you really started in the banking. You were crunching a lot of numbers, it sounds like, and working at a desk. Or did you have to go? You went into an office, I'm guessing, and but 9 to 5 lifestyle. What was that like?
So it was 9 to 5 most of the time, but I got so good at it and I ended up moving with the company. I worked at one main company for about 12 years. Actually, no, 10 or 11 years. Yeah. And that company, I moved up the ranks. I moved around to several positions, but I was very good at the position that it got to a point where I would show up at like 10 or 11 o'clock and leave like at 5. But most of it was that 9 to 5. Stuck to it Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. I also did have a laptop that I would bring home, and I would work from home at times. Yeah. And I was in a cubicle. I was stuck inside of a cubicle. This was whether if it was when I was with the bank or the mortgage servicing company, I was in a cubicle. I was right there at the office. And when I left Philly, I didn't want to be in a cubicle anymore. I left Philly because the mortgage company and everything changed, and I decided, you know what, I'm done. And I ended up moving up to New Hampshire to do something completely different because I didn't want to be in the cubicle.
And
I didn't want to be in an
not?
office.
Yeah. Why didn't you want to be in a cubicle? Why didn't you want to be in an office anymore? What changed for you?
I like being outside. I like working with my hands. I don't necessarily like having headphones on the whole day staring in front of a computer. I like being active, and then I like building stuff. Whether if it's cars or houses, I do like working with my hands and building things, and that's kind of what led me to my next step after Philly, doing auto repair and hail dents. I chased hail for a little bit. I also did fender benders, like literally pull the metal, fill it, paint it, and we do all this at the location of the client. So instead of them having to go to a body shop, we would fix it right then and there. They don't lose the car for about a week. And rental car companies were our clients. Yeah.
So, okay. So I'm going to ask a question, because you went from this kind of, I'm going to say in air quotes, stable corporate job, 9 to 5, 9-ish to 5. And you were at the cubicle, and then you just kind of realized, like, I don't want to do this anymore. And you moved to New Hampshire. Was there any moment, like when you put in your notice that you weren't going to do that job anymore, the one that you've been doing for 12 years for the most part, were you scared? Like, was there anything going through your mind of like, well, what's next? Like, am I going to be able to pay my bills? Like, or did you just know, no, this is what I'm doing? Like, what were you kind of thinking at that point?
So there was times where I was scared. I was worried, like, what am I gonna do? But when it really came down to me giving my 2 weeks notice and all that, I just jumped. I was impulsive. I didn't care. I said, I'm gonna figure it out. I did very well at that company where I had money saved up. I had bought a property and I had a lot of equity in there, so I knew I had some
Mm-hmm.
type of savings I can back into if I needed to.
Yeah.
Uh, but I jumped. I mean, I literally, when I got to the office in the morning, I remember I went to my desk and I wrote up my 2 weeks notice and I took it straight to HR. And they're like, "Are you sure about this?" I'm like, yeah, I can't do it anymore. I'm done. And they let me go. They told me, okay, so you're done. I mean, we'll pay you for the 2 weeks, but there are company rules to just take you leave, like you leave right away. Uh, when I made that jump, I mean, I was a little scared, but at the same time said, screw it. I made it because I really was frustrated and not having to go do anything in there. And like I made joke earlier of going in at 10 or 11 o'clock and leaving at
Mm.
5. You think, oh, great, a couple few hours and it did well, but I didn't have a sense of accomplishment.
Mm.
I didn't feel like I wasn't doing anything that really was getting me to push forward and grow as a person.
Yeah.
Uh, so I decided, you know what, I'm done. I moved. I just stepped, and I stayed in Philly for about another year and a half after that.
Wow.
Because
Yeah.
I bought. That's when I bought a first flip. That was my first flip actually, and my first
Mhm.
flip was in Philly in
Yeah.
Lansdowne. Big house, 3,000 square foot house. Had to
Wow.
fully
Yeah.
remodel it. We made a lot of mistakes, and but that kind of got me my eyes back into that real estate side originally there back in Philly. We didn't do so well in that house. Unfortunately, did lose some money.
Sounds like a big learning opportunity right there, kind of being that first one you took on. I'm sure from there was a
Oh,
lot more things.
it was
Yeah.
my college experience.
Yeah.
It was my
Oh
university.
yeah. Yeah.
It was my university. I mean, my degree, in other words. It was
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, I lost I think like 6 or 7 thousand on the whole thing, the whole ordeal. But I lost about 8 months of just working on the house and not creating
Mm-hmm.
income
Mm-hmm.
because we had so many issues, whatever the case is. But
Yeah.
the education that I gained from it has played out so much more now that we're
Yeah.
looking back, what, 7, 8 years later,
Yeah.
it's paid off so much more in the future.
Yeah, that's so important to know of these things that when we do sometimes take those leaps and sometimes and especially in the beginning or maybe later on, I feel like there's always opportunity to learn, but like it sounds like what I'm hearing you say, the mistake was not a mistake. It was, and I love how you phrase it. This was your university. This was the learning that helped lift you up to do more down the road. And yeah, that's a bummer about, losing money, but it sounds like the education that you got out of that was priceless.
Oh, for sure. And I didn't go to college or anything. I didn't have a degree myself, so I didn't have the university expenses. So I figured I just got that later on in life.
There
That's fine.
you go.
It
That's
is.
a
I mean,
great way to put it.
talk to how many young kids nowadays have so much money in debt in universities or in schools and colleges.
Yeah.
I mean, it's another mortgage. It's a
Yeah.
whole
Oh yeah.
nother mortgage on it.
Yeah.
So for me, for what I gained out of experience, I mean, the 6 grand in the grand scheme of things was okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say it was worth it because I don't want to say losing money's worth it,
Right.
but it was definitely educational from there.
Yeah. So now you're in New Hampshire and you're chasing hail and you're going to clients' houses and fixing their fenders and making it easy for them. And how long did you do that?
So I did that for 3 years. I did the working with my father's company for about 2 years, and then I did my own company doing the hail chasing, where I traveled around the country, chasing hail. And I was doing what's called paintless dent repair. Literally, you get a rod underneath the metal and push it up. And I did that for about a year. Then I came back to New Hampshire. And so we're talking about 3 years working on vehicles. And
Wow.
then when I came back to New Hampshire after a trip from Texas, I had to go back to New Hampshire and COVID happened. So we all know what happened with COVID.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then with COVID, my father ended up passing from cancer, not from COVID, but it just happened to be at the same exact time. He passed in March of 2020. And with his passing, I had gone to New Hampshire to be with him and help him out in his business.
Yeah.
With his passing, I was like, I'm out. I don't want to be in New Hampshire. It's too damn cold.
Yeah.
It's funny I say that though, because after New Hampshire, I went to Chicago. There wasn't much of a difference in the cold.
Yeah.
At least, but in New Hampshire, when it snows, the snow sticks. In
Yeah.
Chicago, it doesn't snow as much, but I mean, you
Mm.
definitely get the snow. But either way,
Sounds cold.
yeah, it's still cold.
Yeah.
It's not like Philly. At least if it snows in Philly, the snow goes away in a couple of days.
Yeah.
You still see grass in February.
Yeah. Yeah.
But either way, with the cars and everything, I did all that working on the cars, and then after COVID happened, I traveled during COVID in an RV because I had it because I had the RV because I was traveling the country chasing hail.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, I'm going to take the RV. That's my home. I'm going with it out anywhere. And for 6 months, I traveled the whole country. And then I came back to New Hampshire and I decided I'm going to move to Chicago. I don't want to be chasing hail. I don't want to be doing the car stuff. I'm going to go back to my roots, what I enjoyed, which was on the real estate side.
Yeah.
Both the financial side or the banking side or just real estate. Because throughout this time, I had done a lot of construction work with a buddy of mine, remodeling bathrooms, remodeling kitchens, just side jobs and off things like that.
Yeah.
And I decided when I go to Chicago, and I went to Chicago, I'm not chasing hail or doing any of the cars. I got to obviously make some money because I got a $3,000 a month rent that I have to pay in Chicago. Yeah. Chicago's not cheap, folks. So that's when I started doing what's called real estate wholesaling real estate, which is flipping contracts. And to put it in simple terms, the easiest terms is I would get in their contract to purchase a property with the homeowner. And that contract, I would find an investor that's looking for a property in that area that's willing to pay me more than what I have that contract under for. So if I have a contract for a property $100,000 and this investor is willing to pay me $120,000 for it, I'm going to make that spread, the $20,000. Okay. Like any wholesale business, there's always that spread of, all right, I get it from the manufacturer, I'm reselling it, getting for a price. That's essentially what wholesaling real estate is, and that's what I've been doing actively for the past 4 years. As well, that has led me to be able to buy a couple rental properties. I bought my house here in North Carolina. I remodeled this sucker completely from studs. And I converted my basement to an apartment where I rent that out, and that covers most of my mortgage. Yeah. And now I'm just either flipping contracts or flipping houses. In fact, I got a closing tomorrow, or it might be today around 3:00 for my next project.
I'm just going to keep hopping back because you went from I'm just going to say corporate banking industry, and the skills that you learned there, it sounds like really have continued to become, and I like to say cookie crumbs, the things that followed us around and followed us on our path that we can go back to and use in different ways. Like the skills that we gained in something that maybe wasn't a good fit anymore are still skills that we can use down the road. You've now developed your own company and you're doing things that make sense for you. And like we were saying before we clicked record, like you do everything from your phone and you choose when you want to work. You can work from anywhere you want. You were mentioning like hopping back and, traveling around again. And you have this freedom and flexibility that wasn't provided to you when you were sitting at a desk, years and years ago. And you have that now. And I'm wondering, with the other experience of working with your dad and building that company up and doing something very unique, chasing hail and helping people, pop out the parts of the car. So it looks better again. Like there's so many things along the way, but also losing your dad. And that, did that have any impact on your choices where, because my dad passed away in 2022 and it had such a big impact on me because there was a point where when he was on his deathbed, he said, I wish I would have not worked as much. I wish I would have taken more time to get to know you and your sister because we didn't have this very super close relationship. And then 6 months later, I got laid off. And it would just kind of open my mind to like, wow, I don't want to be on my deathbed thinking these things that I wish I would have, not worked as much or, the thing. So I'm wondering if that's something, did that have any impact on your decisions after that happened. I mean, going into COVID, like losing right before COVID, like that is such a pivotal time in the world as it is. And then to have someone so close to you, you've been working with so closely, pass away. Did that have any impact on your decision?
So it definitely had an impact on my decisions of where I was going or what I was doing. Now, when he passed and COVID happening, my decision to kind of just hook up my camper and travel the country was that immediate decision because there was nothing to do for me in New Hampshire. So it was closed,
Yeah.
and what else am I going to do? So that decision go from there. I moved on. And then my biggest thing with my dad's passing was, he always wanted me to be happy, and he knew I was always humble, and he just wanted me to do whatever I wanted to.
Yeah.
And I knew I was up in New Hampshire because of him, because I wanted to be up there for him and be there with my father. We did have a very close relationship.
Yeah.
So I wanted to help him, and I wanted to end up growing the business, help him and all that. But with his passing, he wasn't there anymore. So for me, it's like, what decisions were I going to make that are going to be best for me and that he would be happy with that I'm doing? And
Yeah.
to this day, it still takes in play. I mean, I always question, Dad, what would you do? Or Dad, what would you say? We talked every day. We would talk about everything that was going on. I have a very close relationship with both my parents, my mom and my father.
Yeah.
So it definitely took into play some of the things of consideration of what should I do, what risk to take, what not risk to take. But I've also been a little bit impulsive in my ways. Sometimes I'm just impulsive and I'll jump and do things, and it bites me in the ass later, or it doesn't, or it doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows?
Right.
To answer your first part though, in regards to the corporate world and what has led on, what I can say is for sure the 10 years that I had experience in helping people that are in a distressed situation has helped me tremendously in the last 4 with what I'm doing now, because my main target is people that need to sell a house or have a reason or motivated to sell their house for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
So being that I was working with people that had to sell, it just helped me work with them and the organization, learning the corporate structure in the organizations, the reports. So all that education did help me out to be more successful now, where I am able to just run my own stuff because I learned how to put systems in place to be able to say, hey, I'm going to work off my cell phone, but I got a system that's marketing out to homeowners automatically.
Mm-hmm.
And I got systems that I also do have a couple other colleagues that I work with as well. And I've been able to kind of get that in place where I am just working off of this. Someone calls me, I can pick up, I can text, or I have my systems that work off the phone. Technology has made it really more amazing.
Yeah.
But it took me time for this to get all that together. Yeah, I learned some of it, but to implement it, I mean, I'm still implementing it.
Hey, Jenny here. Quick pause for a shameless plug, but it's for a good cause, I promise. As you know, listening to the Career Flipper podcast, my career path has been, well, I don't know if we could call it creative, from customer service to furniture flipping to podcasting to marketing. It's been an interesting ride, but through it all, one thing has stayed the same. I love helping people, and that's why I put together some customer service training courses on Udemy for Business. They have a ton of lessons from things that I learned back in my corporate days, and you'll actually get to see Corporate Jenny in her element because I filmed them quite a while ago. It's the good, the bad, the awkward of helping customers. So whether you are looking to start your own business and want to work really well with your customers, or you're thinking about pivoting into customer support or customer experience, we could all use a little help with customer service. All the courses are under $60. They're available worldwide, virtually from your couch, and over 16,000 students have already taken them, and it has a 4.6 average rating. That's out of 5. So pretty cool. I'm really proud of them. And checking them out helps keep this podcast going. So you can find them over at thecareerflipper.com/courses if you would like to take one or both. Okay, sales pitch over. I hope you visit thecareerflipper.com/courses. Now let's get back to the episode. That's a good call out right there, that in order to get to that place where there is that like we all talk about freedom and flexibility with our job. There does need to be systems in place for things to still get done. And like we were talking about before, like building our websites or like the marketing that we do for our businesses or like how that works. Like there's a lot of stuff that goes into all of that to make it so the rest of it just kind of flows on our daily basis and keeps it easy for us. It's working smarter, really. At least that's what I think about it a lot. I'm like, I don't want to be doing X, Y, and Z over and over and over all the time. I want to develop a system so it flows really easy and I can focus on the other things that need maybe a little bit more attention.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, systems are extremely important, and more than anything, the KISS, keep it stupid simple. Yeah. It really does become that simple. But us as humans, we tend to think too deep into certain things, or probably are afraid of certain things, and that it's analysis paralysis. And I see that constantly in the real estate side with my investors. They have analysis paralysis, say, oh, I want to jump and actually flip this property and move it because I don't know, maybe this and that. And then all of a sudden, someone else jumped in and they're the ones making the 30, 40 grand.
Right. There's like two sides of it where it's like we want to think about and make the kind of the calculated thoughts around making these decisions. But then if we don't go quick or be a little impulsive, like you mentioned, which is just kind of like your personal nature, there has to be kind of a blend of both where you have to be willing to take a bit of a risk, but also know that there is planning and structure that needs to be developed to be able to do it. How do you find that balance between both of those, especially when you're looking at a house? Like, how do you make the decision whether or not to go all in?
I mean, I guess in my world on the real estate side, it's a numbers game. For me, it's all numbers. When I'm looking at a property, I'm determining, well, what am I going to sell it for? How much is it going to cost to sell it? What's it going to cost to fix it to be able to sell it? Yeah. So it's really numbers. I don't have any emotions involved on it. I look at everything as numbers. But it is hard to try to differentiate and be like, oh, I want to jump on this one. I think there's that opportunity because the numbers that we have to work off of are not set true numbers. The market can change in 2 months, as we've seen it happen, constantly going up and down. Yeah, it can definitely change. So you really have to try to make those educated decisions and try to be responsible and as educated as you can. And it depends your position where you're at too. Like, for example, I'm young, I'm not married, I don't have children. My financial responsibilities are there, but they're probably not as high as a family that has 2 kids, has the house, has all the schooling and all that expenses. Yeah. My expenses are more of just traveling, and those are leisures for me. Yeah, right. So you obviously have to be responsible, and you got to think, where are you in your point in life? The biggest thing though is a happiness and being able to enjoy it, because going to work and bringing in the money and having all this money in the bank, but if you really can't go and do anything, or you get your 2 or 3 weeks that you can go and enjoy because you get your 3 weeks on it, what fun is that? I mean, there's no fun to that. I'm able to go and take a 4-day weekend and go enjoy it with no problem now. I can go and say, you know what, I'm going to go to Colombia for a month because I want to go do my teeth work and my eyeglasses. I am actually doing that. Yeah. But I'm able to do that, and at the end of the day, I can still work from my phone and still do my calls out there. It might cost me a little bit of international cost phones, but it's out there. It is about making sure that you're responsible but being happy, because I think life is about enjoying it and not being stuck to the man or that corporate world. And and to your listeners that are thinking, oh, how can I do it? Or what do I do? Think outside the box. Think about, all right, how much do you really have to make to survive while you're doing what you want to do? Okay, you got to figure out how to make that money. I've done the DoorDash. I've done the pizza delivery, and I've done what I've had to be able to get income coming in to afford to pay bills. You have to, but it's that freedom is so invaluable of being able, not having to say, I got to go in and be at this office by 9:00. I have to do this. I have to meet these goals or these deadlines or anything. Now, I set myself goals and deadlines. Let me take that away. Right. But it is a big freedom, and I think freedom is priceless. Freedom is priceless, and having the freedom of not just like we have freedom of speech and freedom of everything here in the country, but our freedom of our time. Our
Yeah.
freedom of our time is so much more valuable than that $150,000 W-2 paycheck. And by the way, as self-employed, you save a lot more money in taxes than a W-2 employee.
That's great advice. And I think a lot of people listening can really, I mean, that resonates. It resonates with me. I mean, just making the choice and doing what you have to do. Like we were talking before, like right now I'm doing some part-time contract work, like customer experience, IT kind of tech support. And it's paying my bills. It's essentially funding the dream. And I think when we rethink these things, we can build the life that we want, that makes us happy. But also you said something, Alex, is like, how much do we really need? I feel like when we have that big paycheck, there's always something to spend on. And sometimes when there's a little bit more in our bank account, it's easier to be like, oh, I'm going to buy this on Amazon, or I'm going to go do this. But do we really need these things? And I don't know if it was the same experience for you, like when you kind of shifted to not having that stable paycheck. But when I got laid off, I was like, oh, I'm really reevaluating the things that I actually need. I don't need that shirt. I don't need that, body lotion, like these things that were just like, oh, click, 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 I'm going to buy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, when I left my company, I left a 6-figure job. I was making a very good income where, to me, spending money on this, spending money on that, I didn't care. I didn't care about it because I had it coming in. And when I was working it, I knew I was going to get a check of 15 grand the next month. And it was just coming in. So I did not care. Now it's a whole different story. But when I did make that change, I started completely not spending money going out, started cooking in, started saving and, adjusting. I mean, I got to the point where my house in Philly, I was renting out my rooms. I rented out the rooms to friends, and they helped me cover my mortgage. My house in Philly had an in-law suite, and I had that rented since I bought the property. So all that helped me cover my mortgage. In fact, I do that now. Downstairs, my basement's rented out to someone.
Nice. Yeah.
So, I mean, I found ways to make money, and then yes, I found ways to conserve. I got rid of my expensive car payments. I got rid of all the luxury items that I had that I should have never had them to be at the. I mean, now in hindsight, when I look at this now and how much I've learned in the past 10 years, it's insane. When I was making that kind of money, and this is 2010, 2011, where I could have bought properties at $40,000, $50,000. And they'll be worth $200,000-$300,000 now. I could have bought them in cash. Okay, but I didn't. I mean, I spent the money elsewhere. I did buy my house, and I didn't do some investments, but nowhere near as what I should have.
Yeah.
And I mean, we kicked it in Philly. And don't get me wrong, we kicked it in Philly. But in the grand scheme of things, yeah, I should have done that differently. So if anyone that's looking to think about their careers or in a good position, take all that into consideration. Look at your lifestyles and look at what it is. I'm happier now that I'm doing my free stuff than when I was making 200 grand a year.
Yeah.
And it's the happiest. And I have everything I had. I had everything, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. I completely, I mean, that hits. I totally feel that same way. I feel like richer now than I was then, and I am making a lot less. And I think it just shows how we define success, how we, like, it's not always a paycheck. I mean, if that is what it is for someone, cool. Okay. That's on them. But success can look different. And Alex, how do you define success for yourself and where you're at now?
So for me, success is where I'm at the point that everything is kind of flowing in automatically. My leads are coming in. I have a team that's managing them, and they're reaching out to me. Hey, we got this, we got that, and I'm able to kind of manage it all and direct everybody. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. I've always been a business owner. I grew up as my dad is a business owner, so to me, it's to have a successful business with income coming in and have successful properties, whether commercial or residential, where I have where I have the rental income coming in and my assets. That's my retirement plan. I don't have a 401k. I don't got any of those type of retirement plans. My retirement plan is building assets, and I feel I feel I'll be fully successful once I have sufficient amount of money coming in to be able to pay all my expenditures and me being able to at least travel once a week, once a month,
Yeah.
travel somewhere where I can say I'm spending like $2,500, three grand on a traveling on a monthly basis.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And you've created that definition for yourself and you're living it every day and making it happen. And it's just a great conversation, Alex. You've shared
Absolutely.
a lot of it's very realistic, the leaps were very realistic and very grounded, and anyone could really do that. And I think that it takes a certain type of person who is open and impulsive and also saying, it's going to work out. I know it's going to work out and I'm going to do it anyways, because staying is just not going to be what's best, because it doesn't lead to happiness and the success that you see for yourself. So I just really appreciate you coming on and sharing so much. And how can people find you? How can they connect with you? Where can they learn more?
I'm on all the social medias, all the TikToks and all that. I'm not dancing on them though. Ferro Home Buyers. This has been great. I appreciate it, and I'm glad we definitely caught up. It's been too long.
Yes, definitely.
Next time I'm in San Diego, I'm gonna hit you up.
Yes, definitely. Let's do it. Let's do it. I'd love to see you. Thank you so much, Alex.
You're welcome, Jenny. Good seeing you.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Career Flipper. Want to connect with Alex? Check out the links in the show notes. If you like this episode, send it to a friend who might need a little boost today. And if you hit that subscribe button, you'll get more stories from awesome guests like Alex every single week. Because let's be real, figuring out this career stuff is easier when you know you're not the only one winging it. If you have your own career flip story to share, visit thecareerflipper.com to submit your story for a future episode. You know, what I love most about hosting this podcast is really the chance that one of these stories might be the nudge that someone needs to take that first step toward, whatever it is they want to change. And I know that first step is really scary because, again, I've been there. But it's also where really good shit begins. Whether it helps you grow or leads to something completely unexpected, it's worth it. So keep going, my friend. What's the best that could happen?